Okay, we're live on Instagram at Abu Gaddafi and live on YouTube at Abu Gaddafi. We're live. Pray everyone is doing well. I pray everyone is healthy as humanly possible, given your current circumstances, your current environment. So, regardless of circumstances and regardless of environment, pray you're healthy regardless. Okay, I'm not going to take up too much of your time on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Just have a brief, breathe, but a brief, message um, before we get started, because everything is all encompassing. Everything is everything, but everything ain't for everybody. So I just want to open up in the name of Allah, who appeared in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom we forever and ever give praise and thanks for raising a divine leader, teacher, guide, and example in the person of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. In these two great and holy names, I greet the brothers and the sisters in the universal understanding, the universal understanding of peace. Peace. Assalamu alaikum, which is simply just the Arabic translation of may peace be with you. So in English, assalamu alaikum means may peace be with you, and may peace be with you in Arabic just means assalamu alaikum. So, with that being said, I do pray that we are blessed with the universal understanding. Universal. It's not limited to location, not limited to your current place and standing and circumstances, but universally as a law. And when I say universal, I'm speaking of all encompassing. The planets are in a universal understanding of peace. There is a universal understanding of laws within the universe, within the planets, and all that exists that has been created by the original man all submit to these laws. So it is that these laws of creation that I am greeting and praying that we acquire or we embody. Okay. And this has to do with accept your own and be yourself. So I want to open up and pray that, dear Lord, please grant me the wisdom to do the thing you put me on this earth to do and to serve the people you put me here to serve. The wisdom. So this particular broadcast today, accept your own and be yourself, of course, comes from the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. This is the instructions from the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Accept your own and be yourself. And what is his own self? His own self is a righteous Muslim. That's our nature. I was having a conversation with a good brother of mine. Shout out to brother Dharma. And we were having a conversation and over the phone. And it wasn't about anything in particular. There was no intent. It was just a building of a relationship between brothers. There was no agenda. And he was posing a lot of different questions that were causing me to think about my personal intention. What am I seeking and what am I going after, even in regards to coming here and teaching or speaking or sharing this every Sunday? And I remember watching this video. I forget exactly who it was. It might have been Myron Goldman, if I'm not mistaken. And he broke down the process of general success. He broke down the process of general success. So not success in any particular area, but just a broad overview or a recipe of success, basically. And the way he broke it down in its steps is be, do, have. So he said be, do, have. Welcome in, peace. So the process that he broke down was be. First step was be, do, have. And this reminded me through this conversation I'm having with the brother and me reflecting on this step by step of be, do, have, and sharing this conversation with the brother, and then being reminded of the teachings of Most High Elijah Muhammad of accept your own and be yourself. It really put things into proper perspective and the difference between doing and having and being the most fundamental. The way that the brother broke it down of the video that I was watching, he was saying most people either want to have something or they want to do something, but they very rarely focus on being something. You have to be the person that's willing to do the thing in order to have the thing. And so through the conversation I was having with a brother of mine, he was asking me, "What is your intent? Are you?" Because he was listening to the uh, my weekly videos, and he was saying a lot of your, even through the conversation that we were having, a lot of them are centered around doing or having. And this is a good time to remind us that the instruction is to seek ye first the kingdom of God and all its righteousness and all these things. Remember the have, that's the last part. The have shall be added unto you. So it was a beautiful reminder for me to refocus because it can give off the, for me standing here and speaking, could give off the maybe confusion that we're all on the same page. We all think alike, or we all listening to this are in agreements of something, or we are all the same, quote unquote, not person, but amongst the same being. And this was real important. It was important for me to not say refocus, but to seek out of clarity, right? Because what I don't want is to be put in a situation where I'm just um, mentally masturbating, so to speak. I'm just speaking just to speak, just to hear me speak. That's not the intent. Um, and so having that conversation, building that relationship, and understanding that, like how Dr. Yusuf Bey said, judge a tree by the fruit it bears, and that's having. The tree bears the fruit, therefore it has fruit. But before the tree could bear the fruit and have the thing, so before the tree could bear the fruit, doing, and have the fruit, having, it must acknowledge the first thing, that it is a tree, in fact. Now, I know that's a strange example because trees don't have to go through well, we don't know. We don't know. I don't know. Maybe you know, but I don't. I don't know if a tree has to go through the process of coming to terms with who it is and being conscious and aware and mindful of its own existence. I think that might be the difference between sentient beings and animate objects, inanimate objects, human beings, and plants and animals. I think that might be the determining factor. The difference between these beings is the fact that it can't reflect or doesn't have the ability to reflect on its own existence. You know, like a lion will hunt because it's a lion. It doesn't think about it being hungry. It has instincts, natural instincts. Whereas a human, a man and woman should at least say should has the ability to reflect. Not all of us do. And so that's going to be the process today that I'm speaking on. Accept your own and be yourself. Accept your own and be yourself. Now, um, I don't, I can't speak for anybody except myself. And I know that my intent, my goal is to become well enough within these teachings to present myself as an example and embodiment of these teachings. But I don't want to present myself as if I'm there. And I don't want it to come off as that. This is a process, a journey. Now, there is a tune or a switch, if you will. You can, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, our nature is Muslim. So by saying accept your own and be yourself, one must self acquire inquire is the process, but acquire knowledge of self. Who am I? So that's the question. Who am I? Who are you? And so that's going to be my journey today and moving forward, of course. But today's uh, meeting, building that relationship, knowledge of self is going through the process of inquiring, who am I? So a perfect, for me, a perfect example of that is today's broadcast. I had every reason to skip today. Every reason. My wife is out playing volleyball. She just made the championship, so congratulations. I got my sons here. I've been going steady, consistent. I could have taken the day. Today is the 22nd of September, and I've been seeing on Instagram how this day was the exact day that Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad met Master Farad Muhammad in 1931 on September the 22nd. I have certain thoughts of doubt as to the effect of these meetings, what to even call them. Brother called them sermons. I call them broadcasts, messages. There's so many different uh, reasons that could be constructed as to take a step back. I saw a brother posted up on his Instagram that he was going to take a step back from Instagram. So I was like, it might be a good idea. And then I had to tune back into who am I? I had to tune back into myself and recognize a pattern that I was unconsciously falling back into. Because my pops always, when we were growing up, he would teach us, no matter where you go, there you are. No matter where you go, there you are. He used to teach us this before it got popular on social media. When we was growing up, wasn't no social media. So it's kind of funny to see these different sayings floating around. But it just shows how effective the truth is, and how patient somebody has to be with themselves. Um, because they say a lie will travel halfway around the world, but the truth is still tying his shoelaces, and that's a fact. So a lie will travel halfway around the world while the truth is still tying his shoelaces. So that's a good measurement to keep in mind. Now, without getting too far off topic, I recognized, again, this is knowledge of self, accept your own and be yourself. So I can't waste time with wanting to discover who somebody else is without discovering who I am, my flaws. Every single individual, every one of us has been prescribed by Almighty God Allah a wobble. Now, no two wobbles are the same, just like our fingerprints. It's not the no two fingerprints are the same. So each one of us have been prescribed our own wobble, just like the earth has a wobble. And through that submission to the plant to the sun, and that submission and consistency of revolution or revolving in its um, in its duty, it works on removing that wobble. And that's the same thing with us. Each one of us has been prescribed our own wobble. Now, some of us may be able to hide that wobble from the public, but everybody knows deep and down we got some flaws. And so again, I want to remind self and others that I'm not up here projecting like I'm some perfect and you know, nah, the Islam is perfect. So reflecting on the conversation that I was having with the brother and then reminding self of the importance of being. Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, accept your own and be yourself. And you know, my father used to tell me this all the time because I'd ask him, what I gotta do? You know, what is the duty of a civilized Muslim? What do I gotta do? What do I gotta? And he would always tell me, Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, accept your own and be yourself. And I understand. I say understand, but I recognize and can comprehend that uh, the profound uh, nature of that. I understand that now. I see it. The process of knowledge of acquiring knowledge of self takes so much energy and effort. That striving towards mastery. That the process of there's not really a lot to do unless you work on self first. Again, there's no one. I'm not saying that we sit there and just meditate and do nothing. And no, the intent behind the doing is the intent behind the doing to have, or is the intent behind the doing to be? And that's where I want to transition. I want to transition. The intent behind the doing is to be, like most Elijah Muhammad said, accept your own and be yourself. That way, we are not how the general orders, my fifth general order is to quit my post only when properly relieved. If we are not somebody who has accepted, like the first general order says, to take charge of this post and all temporal property in view, to take charge of this post, your current post, take charge of this post and all temporal property in view in your surrounding. If we have not acquired that position for self, to take charge of our current position, every time you step out, every time I step out of my current position without being that person, I'm quitting my post without being properly relieved. You know, in on post in security post, this is an example of how this reflects real life. Not saying that security post doesn't reflect real life, but that's somebody put you on that position to do a certain task. You don't have to be perfect, or you don't even have to, you know, you can snatch somebody off the street, put them in a suit and bow tie, and they'll be on post. So it doesn't necessarily mean that internally that they have accepted their responsibility as being Muslim. But a good example of that, of quitting my post before I'm properly relieved in terms of be, do, have, doing something before being something. And this is all encompassing. This is tuning ourselves back in, myself included, tuning me back in with who am I? If somebody is put on post, this is a protocol. Somebody's put on post. Your post is the front door and from one perimeter to the other perimeter of the section. Go ahead, son. You're standing on post at the front door. Across the street, there's some commotion that's happening. That's not on your post. It's across the street. It's not temple property. This doesn't even fall in line with to allow no one to commit a nuisance on or near my post. It doesn't fall in within that parameter. Your post is the front door in this section. It's not near, but it's across the street. You have within all abilities to prevent whatever's going on. Stand in the middle of it, calm it down. But according to proper protocol, you're not to quit that post to go and take care of what's going on over there. Because that could be a measure without being, this is why it says to quit my post only when properly relieved. Nobody properly relieved you from that post. You have no business taking care of what's going on over there, because that could have been a deceptive measure. That could have been purposely uh, done to distract you from being on post. Now, what does that have to do with who am I? Accept your own and be yourself. Have a knowledge of self. If we're in a certain situation within ourselves, me, I own a business. I'm a family man. I've accepted my responsibility. That's my post. I'm taking charge of my post and all that, my temple property in view. Hi, Dale. Can you go see what's going on with Jerusalem? Okay, help him down. And all temple property in view. That's within self. If I neglect or am distracted, again, we're talking about being. If I'm working on myself, I have a specific responsibility, a specific purpose, a embodiment of sorts of becoming, not doing necessarily, not focusing on what I'm doing or what I want to have, but who I want to be. If I have that vision in mind of who I want to be, but then something happens and I become distracted, I'm quitting that post of working on self and neglecting that post to go be something else or go do something else. There's so many different things, and I'm dialing it back to self. There could be impatience that will knock us off our post. Dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction could put us on post, but dissatisfaction could also take us off of post and without being properly relieved. So that process of acquiring knowledge of self is really to take a look at our own patterns. Like I said, I had every reason. They were not righteous and just reasons, but they are reasons that I have given myself in the past, and I was about to. I was. It's been almost a couple of months straight consistent that I've been doing these broadcasts, and I had every opportunity to fall back into a pattern that I would have fell into previously. And that pattern is utilizing different things, pulling from my environment or my circumstances, or giving myself reasons to quit my post without actually being properly relieved. And of course, we can go into later times of what proper relief looks like and things of that nature. That's not the intent. However, it's focusing on that knowledge of self. Who am I? Who am I currently? Who do I want to be, and how does that person carry themselves without identifying with what that person does? And this was a perfect example as well as why I was questioning when my father told me, "You are a businessman." He would tell me, "You are a businessman." I said, "You know what? I'm not." And that's because I lack understanding of process. He was telling me, I am first. First, I am. That's like in the Bible when Moses asked God, Who should I tell them? Uh, who should I tell them sent me?" And God said, "Tell them I am that I am." So that's the very essence, the most powerful uh, uh, position, or the most powerful energy in the universe of creation, is that I am, that supreme being. I am. And sometimes it takes other people to recognize things within you before you can recognize them in yourself. And that's okay, for starters. But you can't, that's not sustainable. If somebody sees something in you, they see potential. It's not until it's ignited and brought forth and resurrected from the bottom source, that it becomes kinetic. Now that energy is in motion, that being is in creation. You've brought something from triple darkness into reality. And that's that igniting of that God energy, being, of source, of I am. So I didn't want to fall victim to the same patterns that I've fell victim to previously, but I didn't realize it until I started to do reflections on self. My father always used to tell me consistency is key. A lot of these things that are going on in social media today, and a lot of these public forums, everybody's got the keys to success, and everybody's got the magic sauce, and the this is the, what do they call them, the hacks, and you know that's all. These are all marketing schemes. Is to take advantage of your emotions and your human desire for immediate gratification. This is what Solomon meant by "ain't nothing new under the sun." There's been traveling salesmen since there were things to sell. So you had a traveling salesman who would walk from town to town. Then you had a traveling salesman that would ride the horseback from town to town. Then you had a traveling salesman who would hop on a donkey from town to town. You had traveling salesmen who had caravans from town to town. Then you had traveling salesmen who would hop in vehicles and cars and trains and travel from town to town. And they would hop on planes from town to town. Now you have traveling salesmen who hop on the computer and travel from town to town. Just the market has become global. And now it's not a travel within your own community or a travel within your own state. Now you can have interstate travel and international and global salesmanship. So that concept of traveling salesman never changed. However, not to get too off focus, but that's what Solomon meant. There's nothing new under the sun. So, bringing it back to knowledge of self, I wanted to recognize those patterns. In this process of being reminded of being knocked off your post without being properly relieved, that's what's that's what marketing, the social media, that's what it is. It's an attack on our emotions. Proper business is finding a problem and providing the solution. There's enough problems that exist. without having to create them. That's where we become unrighteous, where we create the problem. That's what planned obsolescence is in these products. They will not make the highest quality product knowing that in a few years it'll break so that you have to come back. That's a little bit unrighteous. There should be more focus on the highest quality available. Sometimes there's not, the highest quality available because everybody is on that vertical, I don't say integration, but that vertical options. You know, Whoever the manufacturer is, however quality they manufacture, that they're gonna um, produce it at whatever quality they produce it at, and then we're only we only have access to the retail side of it, and then whatever we have access to, that's what we're able to provide. So that whole vertical integration, that line is dependent on the quality that the manufacturer is submitting to. Not to get too off topic, again, reminding about knowledge of self, and the marketing that we're subjected to is to play on our emotions, and understanding that there are no quick fixes. There's no fast track to success. Again, reminded, my father always taught consistency is key. It's the consistency that brings you the results. It's not just one thing. Even like I used to uh, think in terms of a sniper. Like I wanted to be so focused. It only took one, and that is um, possible. But we have to keep in mind, I have to keep in mind how many times did that sniper have to practice over and over and over. Nobody just born. I'm reading this book, Alchemist, and it's saying everybody who tries something new um, experiences what's called beginner's luck. And I'm starting to see that this is what's happening on social media. It just in the world in general, like even when I was teaching high schoolers and things like that, I would see it, but I didn't know what I was seeing. But on social media, it's broadcast, it's public. And what I'm seeing is there's this thing in the book called The Alchemist. He was saying that the first time you try something, everyone experiences beginner's luck, because that is the universal practice of wanting to attract you to submit or to dedicate yourself to your purpose. And I thought that was super interesting because social media, a lot of people are just posting their successes. Imagine you try something one time and you become really good at it. You experience that beginner's luck, and all of a sudden you try to teach it on. You develop a course for it, and then you try it again, and you actually are not that good. You shooting a three, swish, nice. Now I'm on them. Look at that. You just posted it. It goes viral, and now you got courses and things like that on how to shoot three. Next time you shoot, brick. Of course, this is a funny example, but this is what's happening. This is the concept that Bruce Lee said. I fear not the man who's done 1,000 kicks, but the man who's done one kick 1,000 times. And that's I we all hear these things time and time again. At least I know I have. I grew up, my pops teaching me consistency is key. I grew up hearing about the 10,000 kicks. But it took me a long time to embody, actually be a person who wants to be consistent. Not just when I wanted to. Because again, I'm going to be real clear. It's not hard for me to go to the gym every day. That's not hard. I mean, some of y'all on my Instagram, you see, this is not difficult for me because it becomes part of my schedule. And that might not be the same for you. The difficulty for you might be the consistency. For me, accepting my own, being myself, knowledge of myself, who am I? The difficulty for me is when those thoughts and reasonings and justifications come to mind, because those are powerful. Those justifications are powerful, but the voice of God is much more powerful. The difference is one talk, and the other speaks with authority. I've been listening to the one that talk. Oh, you ain't got to. You do this. It sounds like all time. What you talk about, gift of the gab? This how I know that I'm weak personally, and I have to be dependent on the power of Almighty God a lot, because I've seen what I'm capable of doing. Depend and listening to the talker. I have yet to see completely 100% what it looks like by who I am, who I become by submitting to that power of God, to the will and the power, the force of God, the teachings Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has subscribed, given to him by Master Farad Muhammad. I have yet to bear witness to the full embodiment of what that is, because I've wasted or spent so much time. I mean, ain't no time wasted because I'm learning, but I've spent so much time listening to that weak voice. This is like the teachings of Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us. In every body, there's a black germ, a dominant, and a weaker germ, that brown germ or that recessive. And it's by understanding the difference between the two germs and which one will we give dominion to. This and that echoes. There's an echo of that in the native, in a certain tribe amongst quote unquote native or indigenous people of the land now known as America. And we call them Native Americans, but the native or indigenous people of the land that we now call America. There's that saying that within every person there are two wolves. There's a good wolf and an evil wolf. And then the child asks, well, which wolf wins? And the answer, the wise elder's response is, whichever wolf you feed. And that same story is echoed in science, where we know that there's a dominant gene and a recessive gene. The dominant has the stronger phenotype. Ph at the beginning is what shows on the physical. So the dominant phenotype, or that dominant gene, is what shows on the physical. But there's also the recessive, and that recessive is known as either is weaker. So dominant is known as stronger, and recessive is known as weaker. But if everything lines up in a certain way, and there's two recessive genes that match up, that recessive gene will still show as the phenotype, as your physical appearance. So not to get too carried away in the science, but that same essence of truth echoes within our reality. That same essence of truth that we were taught by Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad to teach, that there's a dominant and a strong black germ and a weaker brown germ within us. That truth echoes. There's also that saying from Bob Marley. He said, in everything you're going to do, there'll be a right way and a wrong way. In everything you're going to do, there'll be a right way and a wrong way. And if you listen to that voice inside of your head, it'll show you the right way. He didn't say there's a wrong thing and a right thing. He said in everything you're going to do. And this is how my father used to raise us. Me in particular, because he had to adjust with each child. He had to adjust because we had different ailments, we had different wobbles. So and some of them wobbles was was self-inflicted, was inflicted by himself. But anyway, he used to I used to tell him what I wanted to do. Like, for example, boxing or fighting, things that were not so legal, you know. And he would never just outright say, "No, don't do that," or "Do this." He would say, "Okay, I hear what you want to do, and this is the proper way that I would suggest you go about doing it." Like he was taught not to give anybody who's listening any type of justification. I'm not saying that it's right to do, but he would say, if you, brother Bay used to teach him, if you're gonna do dirt, do it on your own. That's the proper way in which. Now, of course, this is not a justification to do dirt, but the point being is there's a proper way to do things. And so with that, that is, again, with consistency being key. This is the process of me examining who I am currently and envisioning who I want to be. Not what do I want to do or what do I want to have. Because all day I can name what I want to have. All day I can name about what I want to do. But to envision who I want to be, that requires a little bit more, because that's not external. Doing things is external. I wanna establish a business. I wanna build you know, seek the kingdom. But when it comes to, even in that instructions that we've been talking about, day consistently every week, when we talk about seek ye first the kingdom of God and all its righteousness, tune into that part where it says and all its righteousness. That's the important. Righteousness is not necessarily something you do or something that you have. Righteous is something that you are. That's being somebody. That's why in the lessons it says his own self is a righteous Muslim, because that causes us to think, okay, Master Muhammad said his own self is a righteous Muslim. Further on in the lessons, it asks, is there a Muslim other than righteous? This is what we've been given. The supreme wisdom is to help develop us into a specific people, an original man and woman. Yes, the doing and the having, that is the benefits that we are uh, promised, but we are promised those benefits based on who we become, accepting our own and being ourselves. Who is his self? His self is a righteous Muslim. Are there Muslims other than righteous? I beg your pardon. I've never heard of one. And the Minister Louis Farrakhan actually put it in a beautiful way, that God begged our pardon, because he said, Minister Louis Farrakhan said, of course there are Muslims other than righteous. He said he's looking at what? In this building, there's tens of hundreds of y'all. And I thought that was very interesting. By definition, you can't be Muslim and unrighteous. Uh, but then again, we're speaking on a title that somebody carries rather than a nature that somebody is embodying, you know? And so I do understand it's very important. Like, again, we all have wobbles, right? So it's better to be on the path and striving for um, righteousness than to be off the path and talking about what you're going to do. So again, reminding about who is his own self. His own self is a righteous Muslim. Is there a Muslim other than righteous? I beg your pardon. I've never heard of one. So The concept of being a righteous Muslim, by definition, go hand in hand. They are one and the same. But just like a doctor comes and investigates, or a scientist will come and put it under a microscope and dissect, there are attributes of righteousness that needs to be merged with Muslim in order for them to exist in its proper form. So when we hear seek ye first the kingdom, that's focus. I'm not getting distracted. And all its righteousness, that's being. Again, we're not getting distracted. Who am I? I'm striving to be, like the lesson say, a righteous Muslim. A righteous Muslim. Lesson says, is there a Muslim other than righteous? I beg your pardon. I've never heard of one. But some of us can fall victim. The lessons also says, can the devil fool a Muslim? Not nowadays. Has some of us been fooled by the devil? Absolutely. So as soon as we knocked off that post, do we strip ourselves from the title? If I get fooled by the devil in a moment, do I strip myself of title of Muslim? I don't. Should I? I don't know. Again, everybody has been prescribed a wobble. So again, I want to remind, this is the process of, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm just overly analytical and I don't do anything. I There are wobbles within myself that I want to continue to work on and strive. It's like a scientist. I'm dissecting, and if I see a cancer, I do my best to remove it. A lot of times that it festers and multiplies. Laziness is a cancer, and it'll fester and multiply. Uh, Escapism. See, that's something in the Holy Quran. It speaks on believing in the unseen. And many of us who don't really have the knowledge of self will think that that's some spirit or spook. And according to the essence of the Holy Quran, that's not true. Believing in the unseen, that's for one, uh, your goal that you may have in mind. Nobody sees it but you. You see it in your mind's eye. Intention, the the intent of the heart, no man knows except Allah. That is believing in the unseen. Love, you can't see love in its original form. You can see it as an expression. So believing in the unseen, faith is believing. Faith is unseen. That's how the Bible puts it. It's the essence of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So, how the Holy Quran puts it, in believing in the unseen, that knowledge of self, there are many things within self. Speaking on me, and I'm quite certain you as well, there are things that aren't visible to the public that we have within ourselves. And it's so easy today to be distracted. It's so easy to pick up the phone and start scrolling. I see it within myself. It's easy to get lost and scroll, even in public settings when we should be, a lot of times, if we do it properly, having a conversation with somebody else brings out a lot of those. If the conversation is uh, rich enough, is deep enough, is significant, or has substance, it's like a mirror. You having a conversation with yourself, but from a different angle. So you start to see things. I see it all the time with my children. My wife and I just had this conversation. Sometimes we'll see our child doing something, and we'll be correcting them. In the middle of the correction, that same truth will not smack us in our own face. We be telling them to do something, like, give an example. Sometimes when I come home, I got my gym bag. I will put it down right next to the door and then go, maybe get some water or something like that. My, I don't say perfect, but the perfect scenario is to go and put it away. Go put my gym bag upstairs, take the dirty clothes, and prepare for the next day. So that's a wobble within myself. But then what my children will come home and they throw their bag off to the side. Say, boy, put your bag where you're supposed to put it. And that same process of correcting them and trying to correct their error and their fault, it's like a boomerang, smacks me back in the face, and I got to look at my own and say, what the hell you doing? You telling them to go put their bag away where it's supposed to go, but your bag's still sitting there. And then I'm reminded, go back into the Quran, where the Quran says, what is wrong with you that you will guide other souls towards the truth or other souls towards um, a certain way, but you neglect your own? And in the church, they say this is you're not practicing what you preach. And that goes right back to the essence of accepting your own and being yourself. This is not accept your own flaws and continue your own flaws. It's accept your own purpose. Be yourself at its nature, not being yourself as a flawed individual. This is the thing. There's a difference between accepting and being satisfied and accepting for the purpose of shaping. Again, we're reminded about that concept of the clay. My Uncle Nadar used to always tell me, brother, you need to stay on the potter's wheel. Anyone who wants to shape clay has to first accept the fact that it's clay. They don't accept the clay and then they're satisfied, all right, I'm done. No, they accept it as clay. The reality of this material is that it's clay. Now that they've accepted as the reality of it being clay, now they can shape and fashion it based off of their own design. Now, for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I'm in the process of accepting my clay to submit it to the hand of God so God can shape and design and fashion. He can shape and fashion me based on his design, not my own. Because I bear witness to the fact that my design is weak. My design is my time and time again. I gotta play. This is the way the Quran says. It said, well, in the Quran, it says the devil plans and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. I'm not saying that I'm the devil, but I do have plans sometimes. But Allah's plan is always the best. Allah is always the best of planners. Sometimes I be trying to get my plan out there, you know, but Allah's plan is better. Allah's plan is the best plan. Sometimes I try to get my plan out there, getting other people to hear the plan. But Allah's plan, Allah is the best of planners. And sometimes it takes, and this is, again, knowledge of self. For me, it took me a while to understand the difference between persistent and submission. Sometimes I want something so bad, I will be so persistent. I won't let nothing stand in my way. I want it that bad. Of course, within legal reason, I'm not wild like that. But I would want something so bad that I would persist until I acquire it. And so it took me so long to understand the difference between me being persistent and then me being submissive to the will of God. And that's something I'm still working on. If I understand that it's that weakness that yells and yaps and yaps and yaps, but it's Allah who whispers, then it's a process of me quieting my own thoughts, quieting those patterns of reason and justification for weakness. I bear witness to the patterns within myself. Some people might know it as ego. I bear witness and can recognize that pattern of weakness, of faking a sense of authority. Even I, in my closing on this, and then we'll get into an invincible truth. If you didn't know this, I graduated from college with my bachelor's degree in psychology. And in psychology, we were taught about this concept. I don't exactly remember the exact term. I don't remember the exact term that it was called, but it's this concept of fake authority. And they were doing a study as to how could in Nazi Germany, how could uh, these people have committed such heinous crimes on another people? They should have did the study on the slave trade if they wanted to know the real truth. But this process that they did the study on, um, they wanted to know how could that be. And so this the how they replicated the study. They had a group of people. They split it into two groups. One was the subjects, and the other were the scientists. So in this study, there were subjects and there were scientists. Scientists came in the room. They had this white lab coat, and they would have this machine that, if the person pressed the button, it would shock the other person. So there was three people in the room. You had the person sitting in the chair, who was part of the study. You had the person with the machine, who was supposed to press the button, and that was supposed to shock the person who was part of the study. And then you had the scientist in the lab coat. So the scientist told the person with the machine, they said, "We're going to ask the subject a few questions. If they get it right, then you do nothing. If they get it wrong, then you shock them." So during this process, after every question that they get wrong, they would turn up the electricity on the shocking machine. So the scientist would ask the person sitting in the chair a question, they get it wrong. So then the person with the machine had to press the button, shock them. Boom. The next time, the electricity is supposed to be a little bit stronger. So they say, turn it up. After so many times, the scientist would continue to tell the person to shock the other person, even though the electricity was turned up at a high level. Now, this other person sitting in the chair, they're not really being hurt, but the person who has the machine doesn't know this. So the person in the chair is screaming and crying and saying, "Please, please, no, no, no." And the scientist in the white lab coat will say, "Don't listen to him, just keep going." And the person in the with the machine would just keep going, keep shocking them. And what this went to show was that, again, talking on knowledge itself, our humanity, our morality is not as strong as we think it is. All it took was a fake sense of authority to be placed and give instructions that people's humanity and morality was overrided. All it took was a fake sense of authority for people's humanity and morality to become obsolete or wouldn't even matter. They knew in their mind, I don't want to do this. I don't want to hurt this person. But this person who has authority is telling me to do it, so I'm going to do it anyway, out of fear of authority. So what am I saying? That experiment that was done, this is the jihad or the personal battle within self. There's something inside of us. I'm speaking from personal experience, speaking on myself. There's something inside of me that has a fake sense of authority, given instruction. And that fake sense of authority has the power to override my morality, override my sense of humanity. Now, of course, I'm not being real. I'm not talking on like no serial killer type stuff. But what I'm saying is, in terms of putting my discipline in question, putting my consistency in question, my way of life. Again, with the bag, putting my bag away. These standards that I have developed for myself, according of for self development. These standards that I've put in place, that Allah has subscribed, talking about Islam, has subscribed for us, standards that are set above the world for us to submit to. And there's a voice. See, you have Allah's voice who speaks with real, true authority, and then you have a voice inside of our heads that speak with a false sense of authority. Some may call it ego. That'll say, it'll justify our way out of submitting. How the Bible says, your thoughts are not my thoughts, is God speaking. Your thoughts are not my thoughts. My thoughts come from above, your thoughts come from below. So if Allah is given an instruction to do something, whether it be in the Bible or the Quran, that was a thought and an action developed from a supreme way of thinking that our minds at this current time is not able to comprehend, but it's that false sense of authority that'll justify out of it. Well, I know what that says, but if I put this and this together, I don't really got to do it. Well, he didn't really mean it like that. What he meant was, I'll do it later. Or I deserve. These are patterns. I'm speaking from my own experience. These are my own patterns of thought, of false sense of authority. Again, bringing it to today, I had given myself every reason out of a pattern to not tune in to this broadcast today. Oh man, I've been doing this consistent. Could take a break. My wife is doing her volleyball. I'm so thankful that they won. They made it to championships, and I don't mean to be on here too long because I do want to get my sons over there to see. But the point being is, through my old patterns of thinking, I had thrown every single reasoning behind this. Oh man, you know what? You you just wasting time, or you could spend this. You know what you got to do? This is again that false sense of authority. You know what you got to do? You got to take this week off so that you could tell people that you're working on something, and then you spend the time in the shadows. Do the darkness work, the shadow work. Don't be in the public. You do the. That's all false. That was a false sense of authority. That's falling right back into the pattern to make it seem like, oh, just one video is what's gonna make the difference. Because if I'm thinking that I got to do the shadow work, that means I'm putting more value on speaking into the public on the live video, as if one video is the video that it's going to take. No, it's a consistent thing. It's time after time after time after time after time. It's just 10,000 kicks. It's just being more comfortable. Again, I'm spending the week out that's not on in front of the live video. I spend the entire week of studies. Spend the entire week of work. But because there was so many things going on, I almost fell victim. I thank Almighty God Allah that I didn't fall victim to that old pattern of thoughts. But I was this close. And so this is that concept. That false sense of authority could sound like anything. It can sound like doubt. Well, I don't know. Nobody's been tuning in, or Or maybe what if they think, oh, look at this guy. He thinks he's perfect. These are all real doubts. These are real doubts. Why am I standing here on social media and I'm saying that people on social media, I heard a good measure because this is a good thought. I forget exactly who put the measurement out there, but I will submit to it. The brother said, if you weren't really like that already, but you made yourself like that for social media, then that's fake. You gotta go around. But if you already liked, I think it was L.A. Russell. I think it's L.A. Russell and not La Russell. I know when I read it, it's La because Spanish is La, but that's the female version, so it's got to be L.A. L.A. Russell. He was like, "Nah, we really like this, and we just happened to cut the camera on." So for me, I have to use that measurement. I say, you know what? Every opportunity I get, these are the conversations. See, in front of the camera, I'm having a conversation with the camera. But these are conversations I have with real people. I really am striving to live like to be this person. Really am striving to do better, to acknowledge my faults. In our prayers, it says, uh my prayer, my sacrifice, my life and my death are all for Allah. Oh Allah. Uh, I'm looking for the word. It says there's another post that says if you ever feel like not praying, you should pray anyway because something inside of you is telling you to not pray. So that goes right back into that false sense of authority. If the supreme authority says pray, our supreme authority says pray 5 times a day, at least 2 more at nighttime, making it a total of 7. That's our supreme authority. Master Prophet Muhammad, our supreme authority, who gave the teachings of Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, our supreme authority. You know how they say uh, inferior or superior knowledge would never submit to inferior knowledge? Our superior authority gave us the instruction to pray 5 times a day. So there's some false sense of authority that's saying, oh, you can miss this one. Oh, that's not what he really meant. What he really meant was if the prayers, the words of prayer are written out very in detail in the Message to the Black Man. So it's not for us to say, oh, what he meant is we supposed to, when I'm walking, I'm praying. The messenger never said that. Anyway, in the prayer it says, surely I have turned myself to thee, O Allah, being upright, to him who originated the heavens and the earth, and I am not of the polytheists. Surely my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, and my death are all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. No associate has he. This am I commanded, and I am of those who submit. O Allah, thou art the king. There is no God but thee. Thou art my Lord, and I am thy servant. This is the part. I have been greatly unjust to myself, and I confess my faults. So grant me protection against all my faults, for none grants protection against faults but thee. And guide me to the best of morals, for none guides to the best of morals but thee. And turn away from me the evil and the indecent morals, for none turns away the evil and the indecent morals but thee. Those are the key components of striving. And through that consistency, can you imagine saying that 5 times every day? That's like if you lost in a dark tunnel and that's the only light you have. Over time, consistently, I realized the power of subscription words like prayer when I was having a conversation with my wife. This is in reality. In reality, the power of subscription words. Subscription words meaning this is the words that we've been subscribed to use or prescribed. Prescription words is a better word to use. Prescription. The power of prescription. I was having a conversation with my wife, and she was talking to me about her negative thoughts, and I'm listening to the process that she has about her having negative thoughts. And I've come to the understanding now, dealing with women, I have to ask, are you looking for an ear, or are you looking for a solution? Do you want to just be heard, or do you want a solution? It's taken me a long time, but I'm working on it. And so through that process, it came to terms that she wanted some uh, advice. So I said, this is the reason, because she had her negative thoughts that were going on. I said, this is the reason why we read the Quran. She's going through the Bible now, but this is the purpose of prayer and reading scripture, is so that our thoughts, our lower thoughts, are supplemented with the word of God. So we fill our mind so much with the thought, because words that have been given to us from God bears witness to the thought process of God. Do you understand? Words that have been given to us from God, it bears witness to the way in which God thinks. It's thoughts that develop words. Just like the Bible say, in the beginning was the word. So that tells us the word became God. That means that words have power. So what I was telling my wife was that instead of trying to battle your negative thoughts with your own positive thoughts, because that's what most people will tell you. Most people will say, well, you got to try to remove the negative thought with a positive thought. I don't think like that. I like to employ the art of war. So I'm not going to, I don't like a what's called a Pyrrhic victory. Pyrrhic victory is you might win, but at what cost? Pyrrhic victory means, like, if you see two boxers they going at it, every round is a dog fight. Somebody loses, and then they interview the winner, and the winner is like, "Yeah, we had plans. We actually on plan." Not being disrespectful, but this is the way that they sound. Their face all lumped up, can't really talk nothing. We executed a plan. We got in there. They all punch drunk. And I'm not meaning to make a mockery and be disrespectful, but I'm just showing forth. That's a Pyrrhic victory, because they won, but at what cost? You can't even speak right now. Your face all lumped up. So yeah, you might have won, but what cost? It's called a Pyrrhic victory. And I do not subscribe. When I was training boxing, my pops used to always say, do you want to fight, or do you want to win? Do you want to fight, or do you want to win? And so those types of anecdotal thoughts, bringing it back to the purpose, those types of anecdotal thoughts, when I've been reminding us of, my father used to say that consistency is key, and he used to give us these anecdotal thoughts. That is the same concept that I was communicating to my wife about having God's thoughts invited or introduced in our mind to remove those negative thoughts. Because if you come up with a negative thought, like, for example, if I have a negative thought and I say, I don't know if I could do it, and then that same mind that created that negative thought says, oh, you can do it. Those are two thoughts of equal power that are battling. It's going to take more energy for those thoughts to be to battle, and one wins. Either the negative thought or the positive thought is going to win, but at what cost? I don't like that. That's not the way that I like to do business. The way that I like to do business is, let me introduce a supreme thought. Let me find something within these scriptures from God that will override any negativity that I might come up with. I might read the supreme wisdom. Who is the original man? The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth. Cream is that which rises to the top, the God of the universe. Cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. That's the teaching Most High Elijah Muhammad. Now I use that thought to supplement any negative thought that I can come up with, because I don't think of it as that's not a cape that I put on. A lot of brothers that I have conversations with, they might use it. They might use that as a cape to put on, as a shirt that you put on, something that you wear. Me personally, I don't think of it like that. To me, that's a responsibility to submit to. It says the maker, the owner, the cream. Maker is somebody who makes something. You develop that within yourself. Owner is somebody who owns something. You develop that within yourself. The cream is something that rises to the top. You develop that within yourself. So those are responsibilities. I can't be maker, owner, cream of the planet Earth if I'm stuck at the bottom rail. So I have to show and prove how the lesson says, um, qualify yourself for positions that await you. That's the purpose of having those lessons, is to supplement those negative thoughts. Just like I was saying, I had a hard time today. I had every reason. Wasn't going to do it. Then I reminded, qualify yourself for positions that await you. What was I waiting for? Who would I have been if I said, oh, yeah, I just skipped today? I'd have ruined my own will within self to submit to these teaching, because even on this, in my closing, I'm going to get into the invincible truth, and it lines directly up with the 22nd of September. Today, exactly 68 years. Am I willing to skip that without having any type of preparation? Am I willing to sacrifice consistency for the purpose of a false sense of authority and a false sense of justification? The person that I'm striving to be, accepting my own and being myself, is not going to submit to a false sense of authority. It's not going to fall victim to a negative sense of patterns that is consistently has been falling victim to before. It's developing self outside of that. Okay. So with that being said, we are transitioning out. I know I said I wasn't going to take too much time, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So again, reminding the concept, accept your own, speaking to self, and be yourself. It's okay to want to do better. It's okay to be dissatisfied and accept your flaws so that you can overcome them. It's okay. See, a lot of times I have doubt. Man, am I overthinking? It's okay for me. My father always told me the only ain't no wrong. The only wrong decision is not making one. So I had this to decide that who I want to be is more decisive. It's easier. No, it's better for me to fix a mistake that I made based off of a decision that was made, rather than trying to justify making a decision. Because once something is executed upon, now you can deal with it in real time. If I'm not dealing with it in real time, then I'm just imagining theoretical and hypothetical actions, and that's poison. And it's poisonous that just leads to laziness. Okay. So with that being said, accept your own, be yourself. We're reading an invincible truth. Today is September the 22nd, 2024. This article was written September the 22nd in 1956. It says, come out of her, the great is falling. Revelations 18, 2 and 4. Come out of her. Last week, we mentioned that a kingdom encompasses location and influence or dominion. So when we say things like come out of her, it's a physical location being America, but it's also her influence and dominion. Remember, we said that the Roman Empire, they tried to strive to a level where the sun never set on the Roman Empire. But Rome is a city in Italy, and Italy is quite small in comparison. Italy is quite small. Rome is even smaller. You got an island named Sicily that's across the ocean just a few miles. So it's not location that was powerful, it was influence. So come out of her influence, come under the influence of God. The Revelator saw Revelations 18:1, an angel come from heaven from the Holy Land, having great power, and the earth, the so-called Negroes, was enlightened to his glory, wisdom, knowledge of the truth. This angel can be no other than Master W.F. Muhammad, the great Mahdi, who came from the holy city Mecca, Arabia, in 1930. He is the most wise and powerful being on earth, or ever will be, God in person. He who with a strong voice announced the immediate doom of America. He said that there was no punishment great enough to repay the slave masters for their evils done against the so-called Negroes of America. He also said that the country is filled with devils and every kind of evil. His voice was strong and mighty, and to everyone who believed and accepted the true religion, Islam, he gave them a holy name of Allah's. He gave them a holy name of Allah's God, a holy name of Allah. Every word that he said is true. He came for the salvation of the so-called Negroes, warning them to join onto their own kind, the Nation of Islam. Join onto their own kind. Again, we're reminded, accept your own and be yourself. All nations are charged with committing fornication with America and are now angry with her. All nations are charged with committing fornication with her, America. Again, not just the physical location, but the influence, doing business. That's the unseen. Business, business relationships, the essence between is unseen. That's influence. So come out of her influence. The merchants of the earth were made rich in trade with her. America, the richest of all countries, pays the highest wages. Therefore, she must charge a high price for her merchandise. Excuse me. America, the richest of all countries, pays the highest wages. Therefore, she must charge a high price for her merchandise, and those who buy her merchandise for resale must sell it for a profit, and they too are made rich from such deal. They shall weep and mourn over her, America, for no man buyeth her merchandise anymore. That's in the 11th verse. No man buyeth her merchandise anymore. When people are rich and powerful, they can't see themselves being brought to an ought overnight. That's that arrogance. Again, I'm going to say, it says, when people are rich and powerful, they can't see themselves being brought to an ought, so to nothing, brought to nothing overnight. They can't see it. Who can remain in power if God has decided against him? He, Allah, exalted whom he pleases, and whom he pleases he brings to an ought. Ought is nothing, brings down to nothing. What does the Bible teach us were the sins of Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar? What were the sins? Was it not for those silver and golden vessels that were the property of the temple of God? It is the temple's property now, the so-called Negroes, that God is after today. Reminded, take charge of this post and all temple property in view. It says here, it is the temple's property now that God is after today. Nebuchadnezzar has charged with bringing them away from their temple of God. Hmm. So is England today charged with bringing into America the first black people to be sold into slavery? Is that wasn't a question? Let me restate that. Nebuchadnezzar was charged with bringing them away from their temple of God. So distraction. So is England today charged with bringing into America the first black people to be sold into slavery? So just as Nebuchadnezzar was charged with bringing them away from their temple of God, England is being charged for putting black folks into slavery. She has and still is losing her power over the world of the black mankind. And she will be left only a stump of her power in what is called the British Isles. America has poured wine into those sacred vessels and makes mock of them. That's interesting. America has poured wine into those sacred vessels and makes mock of them. Let no man fool you concerning the so called Negroes. They are sacred in the eyes of God today. Sacred. The Negroes will have to be chastised into the knowledge of Allah, the God of their salvation. Fear no more, for your God is on your side to avenge you of her. We are in a cage. Islam is the key for us all. Now, I want to bring highlight to that real quick because that would be, in a sense, spiritual or metaphorical. And that reminds us going back to be, do, have. Islam is not, and Muslim is not something you do. Um, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Initially. Islam is not something you do initially. It's something you are. It's developing yourself to be. So again, the intent of prayer is not to have. We're not praying so that we can ask God to have something. We are praying so that we can become or be something, tuning into that divine energy, that divine nature within ourselves. That's the point of prayer. So if you not are who you wish to be completely, everybody got a wobble. So it's arrogance to say I am exactly where I need to be. I am who exactly I want to be. That's arrogance if everyone was prescribed a wobble by Almighty God Allah. We all got something we can work on. And prayer is the prescription to that wobble. It says, fear no more, for your God is on your side to avenge you of her. We are in a cage, and Islam is the key for us all. That caged is of our mentality, of our being. So Islam is the key for our mentality or the key for our being. There are several prisoners writing to me wanting to accept Islam. He talking about real prisoners now. Just send your slave name saying that you want to join onto your own holy nation and to serve and obey Allah and his apostle. That's that accepting your own and being yourself. Just bearing witness. I want to serve and obey Allah and his apostle. When you are free, report to one of our nearest temples, but be sure it is one that I am the leader. In the meantime, we will record your name here on our book as a registered Muslim. I like to read what any one of you have to say for the truth of which I am writing in this paper. Flee to Allah for refuge. Praise to God. So that article was written exactly 68 years to the date on September the 22nd. Which is interesting that this day as well is in 1931 is the day in which the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad originally met Master Farad Muhammad for the first time on this day, September the 22nd. And so, again, reminding us Accept your own and be yourself, not based off of who you are initially, who you desire to become. Working through those flaws. Each one of us are, each one of us has a wobble, but we all have the desire to, should have the desire to develop ourselves into better human beings. Okay? Because ain't nobody perfect, ain't nobody living in a perfect world. But we have the option and the power to strive towards perfection. And before I leave you, I just wrote something on my Facebook before tuning in today. I'm gonna leave you with, and then let you go back to your day. It says something that I learned from by growing up. Something that I learned by growing up in Hawaii, is when you, if you front as if you're fruit, you will rot on the vine. But if you submit to being a seed, you will grow over time. I'll say it again. Something that I learned by growing up in Hawaii, is if you front like you fruit, you will rot on the vine. But if you submit to being seed, you will grow over time. So fronting, if you don't know, fronting is like pretending or faking. And fruit, we're taught fruit is the best. It's constantly training. So if you fronting like you fruit, you'll rot on the vine, meaning there will be neglect. You just go bad. You turn bad. You will not produce that which you say you're going to produce. But if you submit to being seed out of humility, understanding that everybody needs to be developed over time, you will grow over time. And that's something that I learned by being in Hawaii. Because it's a difference between looking like something and actually being something. That seed is. That seed is. And so in the proper environment, it will grow over time. But fronting like you fruit, that's just like looking like you the best of the best. The fruit is the best, but fronting like you fruit make you look like you might. It's cockiness, it's arrogance. You look like you got it, but you rot on the vine. If something rots on the vine, it's undesirable. Okay. So with that being said, that's my closing. If there are no questions and concerns, I will leave you as I came with a universal understanding of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining me thus far. Congratulations if you made it this far. And inshallah, God willing, I'll see you next week. God bless.